celebrate yourself, and love each other. Hello, everybody, and welcome to JBC Presents Conversations with Others. I'm your host, Jeffrey Bowyer Chapman. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. He's someone who's been a dear friend of mine for a very long time, and upon meeting him years ago, truly and instantly changed the way I perceived myself and the world around me. He is an actor, singer, dancer, artist, director, producer, activist, and all-around phenomenal human being. And now, for the simplest and most complex question of all, who are you?
I am your brother. Yes. I am Jussie Smollett. What's up, y'all?
Hi, Jussie Smollett.
Hello, Jeffrey Bowyer Chapman.
Hi, thank you so much for being here with us today on Conversations with Others.
Y'all do not even understand how excited I am to be here.
You were so
and how
sweet.
Proud I am of you. I keep saying that.
Love.
I keep saying that. I love when we do things that are out of the box that are not necessarily expected of us.
Yeah.
And just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just make it happen.
Thanks, babe.
And it's so exciting, and
I feel like I've
you.
taken. I love you too. I feel like I've taken a lot of lessons from you. I think that
As
it's
I have
important.
from you.
Thank you. I think that it's important to. I think we've come to a place, both personally and professionally, where we have the opportunity to produce and create our own content and to reclaim our voices and reclaim our power, and that can come in many different forms, whether it's television and film, or music, or holding space, a safe space for conscious and creative and thoughtful conversations like a podcast. So I thought the time was right. The time was right to dive in and do something like this.
Representing endless possibilities.
Yeah.
And that there's no, I can't or what if. There's just...
I love that.
I'm going to just do it.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it.
I'm just going to do it.
I feel like, I'm reminded every day of the tattoo on your left forearm.
Yes.
Gonna make a change. Oh my God, you're so Michael. That's amazing. For people who don't know, those are the opening lyrics to Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror.
It's such a reminder every day, though. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted tattoos, but I didn't want to get tattoos that when I got older, it didn't mean anything to me, or it was some whim or some fool's name or something
Absolutely.
like that. You know what I'm saying? I wanted something that I could look back and be like, well, that still means something to me today.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a daily reminder, and it's also like the intention with which you live your life by.
I hope that the majority of us do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying?
I have a tattoo on my wrist as well. It's my mother's handwriting. It says surrender, and that is something that is a daily reminder for me, just to go with the flow, just to listen to my guts, listen to my instincts, and go with the flow, because life's a lot easier that way instead of going against the grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And surrendering to what you choose to, surrendering to love, surrendering to the moment, to, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean surrender.
Like surrender
up.
door.
You know
thief.
what I'm saying?
It's no surrender door.
Like,
thief.
give up, bitch.
That wicked witch ain't gonna get me now. Just go with the flow. So I do have to say, although this episode isn't going to air for a couple of months, we are recording on June 12th, 2017, which marks the 1-year anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shootings in Orlando, where we lost the lives of 49 of our brothers and sisters. I mean, just even, it's only been a year, but even thinking about it just brings up such raw emotions within me. I feel like it was, in many ways in our community, it's like it was a terrorist attack. Like many people with 9/11, it's something that I will always remember exactly where I was when I heard the news. Do you remember where you were when you heard?
I woke up and I saw obviously on social media first, about the shooting, and then I started to go and kind of like read my own, do my own research, and it just felt like that week just got worse and worse and worse, and it was all in the same time span, not the same week, I don't believe, but it was all in the same time span. It was Orlando, and then it was Alton Sterling, and then it was Philando Castile, and it was just all of this. It's like you couldn't breathe. You saw, it was like, but it was on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was heartbreaking then. It's heartbreaking now.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking still to like go to the different victims, our angels, their page, their pages.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, like a wide variety, a rainbow
variety.
of human beings,
Such
men
a
and women,
variety.
young and old,
Absolutely.
trans and cis. Yeah,
you
people
know,
of color.
Allies.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It was everybody. It was extra sad because it kind of represented to me that night and that club kind of represented our nation and our world,
Yes.
but really our nation.
Yeah.
How many different people that we have, and that it can just take one person to just fuck everything up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's super important to remember and honor and pay tribute to the lives that were lost. I think that's where our energy should go to. But it's also, I think, important to explore the source of it and the why of it and why this human being chose to commit this senseless act of violence, which in many ways isn't senseless. I mean, I think that I am brought back to immediately. I was talking with my producer Alex about it last week. We were having a conversation, and I was brought back to a quote that stuck with me a few years ago. When we don't handle our demons, we become one. I think that when you internalize self-hate and you internalize the negative messages that are being fed to you on a daily basis by the status quo, and you can't step into and live in your authenticity. If you're not filled with love, you're filled with hate. And, when you're filled with love, that love spills over and you share your love and you share your light. And when you are filled with hate, I think that any reflections or representation of the person that you want to be truly at your core is so dangerously infuriating that it leads to tragic events like this. But we just want to send our love and light to the friends and families of the lives we lost last year.
We're thinking of you, thinking of you not just today, but thinking of you and carrying you with us. You know, and not taking that lightly either. It's very easy to kind of say the words.
Yeah.
You know, but it's truth.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, and it's real, and you really genuinely do feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Pride Weekend here in
Pride Weekend.
Los Angeles. It's a time for us to celebrate ourselves and celebrate others, celebrate otherness. I know that you took part in the Resist March.
Yeah.
I wasn't in LA this weekend, so I couldn't come, but I'm super proud of you. So you were speaking at a rally? Do you want to tell me about it?
I got to introduce Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and Auntie Maxine Waters.
Yes. Everybody's auntie.
Yo, everybody's auntie. Everybody's Auntie Maxine. How you doing, baby? How's your sister? How's your mama?
Oh, I love that.
She's so sweet. She marched with myself, Vanessa Williams, Daryl Stevens, our good friend.
Yeah, I love Daryl. Hi, hey, Daryl.
Hey,
Shout out to Daryl
Daryl.
Stevens.
And of course, one of my biggest mentors since I was 15 years old, Phil Wilson, executive director of the Black AIDS Institute. Yes. And Maxine Waters marched with us, and then I introduced them, said my little 2 cents. And yeah, that was awesome.
Your 2 cents is priceless, though.
Well, I thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I just, there were a couple points I wanted to get across, and I think I did, and everybody was so wonderful. It was nice to see all of the different types of people that showed out and showed up. I saw families. I saw mothers and fathers and babies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I saw fathers and babies. I saw mothers and babies. But to me, to see mothers and fathers and babies, it meant that, well, shit, like, we are in this together.
The dream is expanding.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's expanding, and that it doesn't belong to one type of people, but we can all coexist together.
I think that's the important lesson to take from this. But it is about a celebration of otherness, and I'm curious to know, how do you define your otherness?
I don't know if I define my otherness.
No.
I don't know if I define it as an otherness. I think I define myself as love. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I just think that I know who I am. I know who my parents are. I know where they come from. As much as we can know.
As much as
where the fuck we come from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I know something about where I come from and you know, I know something about who I love, who I'm in love with. All of that good shit is love.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. Like, I remember when I was growing up, we would always hear people would say, oh, and you're biracial. And my mother, who's a black woman from New Orleans, and my father, who was a Russian Polish Jew, they would say, you're not biracial. There's one race. It's the human race. You're bicultural.
Oh, I love
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's not a thing of race or... First of all, black was created because we were taken from a place.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
White was created by a bunch of dudes that had similar complexion and got together and was like, dude, we're totally going to become the majority. Dude, you're Irish. Dude, you're English. Dude, you're you're all these things. Bruh, we're going to call ourselves white.
Yeah.
That didn't exist before. When you talk to real cultures, when you go to Italy, they're not calling themselves white.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
saying I'm Italian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Or that interesting question in America that is so prevalent, what are you?
Right.
It's so fucking strange to me. I mean, I've been to many other places in the world where that question is just so foreign.
Doesn't
and so-
exist.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't
what
exist.
are you? I'm JBC, motherfuckers. I'm
Right,
Jussie
damn
Boy.
right.
I mean, I'm biracial as well. I think that my mother is a white Caucasian woman. My father is a black Jamaican man. I was adopted, though. I was adopted as a baby, and I was raised in, I feel like it was like a sick social experiment in many ways. I was raised in a tiny little farm town.
Like the Truman Show.
Seriously. Like, let's pluck
JVC show.
this little mixed race child and throw him in the middle of this like fucked up backwards farm town and see how he does. Yeah, I mean, the town I grew up in was so small. It didn't even have a stoplight in it, like a traffic light. It was just,
Jeffrey?
it was just unnecessary. Shit. It was so crazy. But I was the only person.
Motherfucker.
I know. I got out though as soon as I could. But I was.
We love home. We love where we come from.
I pay homage.
Let me ask you though, when you were growing up, did you grow up? Because see, I grew up as a black man with a Jewish father.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I grew up saying, yeah, we're black and Jewish, growing up with Jewish being a culture, not being a religion or something like
race.
that, you know, or race.
Yeah.
It was a culture to me. And still to this day, I have this debate. I actually have this debate with my older brother, who's like, we have this debate often. But did you grow up, I still grew up saying and knowing that I'm a black man. Like, I've never been pulled over by a cop and then being like, nigga, you look like your daddy might not be black.
Right, exactly.
I'm gonna let you go.
Exactly.
Like, they're like, no, nigga.
You're
like, you're black.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that, no, I mean, I did identify as black. I mean, my entire life I was told that I was black, but I think it's very interesting because I was raised in Canada, where, you know, racial dynamics are far different than they are in this country, in the United States of America. But growing up in Canada, I was identified as black. When I was 25 years old, I moved to South Africa, and I was identified as colored, which is a word that is very loaded in this country,
of course.
Because of our history, but it's a word that I fucking love. I love the word colored.
Oh, shit.
I am colored. I am of color. I think that it's a beautiful, beautiful word. I mean, I think that many people are going to have various opinions on that, but...
Tell me why you love the word colored.
Because I think there's something so rich and beautiful about it, and I don't necessarily have the negative connotations attached to it that,
because you're not
Black
from the
Americans,
US.
that Black Americans have. So, you know, for
So when someone says nigger, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That hurts. Well, it depends on who it's from. It depends on who it's from. You know, so that, I mean, but this is also interesting. So I was living in South Africa, 25 years old. I was identified as colored. I moved to New York after Cape Town, and I guess people, you know, the black community would easily identify me as being mixed race, and but you know, the status quo would just identify me as black immediately.
Wait, you're saying in South Africa?
No, in America.
In America.
Yeah. So I mean, we can go into this from so many different angles. Being in South Africa and being identified as colored, being a light-skinned black person, you do receive like the light-skinned privilege. essentially. I mean, I was there and I was working as a model. Because of the country's history with apartheid, there is very much like a status system, and at least at that time when I was living there in 2010, the lighter skinned you were as a dark person, the more saleable you were. Like, I mean, I was the one who would be as a model. Yeah, so I would be the one who would be ideal for to be on billboards and campaigns and things like that, because it was the ideal, what people could strive towards. I don't know how you could possibly strive towards that. I wasn't necessarily aware of it for the first couple of months of me being there, but it became more and more readily aware. I became more and more readily aware of it as time went by. Then it was moving to America, moving to New York, and when I first met you, I first met you in like my first month of living.
Was that your first month? That was your first,
yeah. Of living in New York, maybe my second month or something like that. But Jussie and I worked together on a movie that shall not be named.
It's called The Skinny, motherfucker. Oh. It's called The Motherfucking Skinny, spelled S-K-I-N, then different color N-Y, like skin N-Y.
All right.
Don't be ashamed of that shit. That shit was hot.
Okay.
All right? Listen.
I love that movie.
Let me tell you something. Sometimes you just have to look back on the things that you've done, and just be like, it meant something to somebody.
Oh shit!
Because we do see like young people that come up to me still
every day.
People that flip their shit when they see pictures of me and you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or the fact that Blake and I, you know what I'm saying? Like, or absolutely. Anthony choreographed. That's
yes, absolutely. Or Shanika,
that runs this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That movie actually meant something to some people.
That movie meant a lot to me as well. As challenging as parts of the production were, I grew from my time. We shot that over the course of like maybe 2 months in the summer in New York. It shaped me in ways that I never ever could have possibly anticipated. It was in many ways, and this may sound strange to some of our listeners, but my introduction to Black America. I'm being serious. Yeah. I mean it entirely.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
You don't know what?
I mean, you guys taught me, like, there was a language and a cadence and a way of being that exists among African Americans that just doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. It certainly didn't exist where I grew up in Canada.
Wait, tell me how. Tell us how.
Don't you remember there were certain lines of dialogue that I would have to say where I was like, what the fuck does this mean? Or like, what is that? Or I remember like I had to do a scene where I fell off the bed, and in the scene it was written as like death drop, and I was like, what the fuck is a death drop? Or, that's like queer. That's queerness as well. But Black.
I mean, I learned a lot though about queerness, to be honest with you,
totally.
doing The Skinny.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I'm saying? Like, really, it was great, and we got some true lifelong friends out of it.
The greatest gift to me of working on that film was the siblinghood you have between yourself, myself, Anthony Burrell, Blake Young Fountain, and Shanika Warren Markland. We are like forever
still
family.
To this day.
We may not see each other for months on end, sometimes years on end, with Shanika living over in London still, but the connection is there. It's undeniable.
And we're always thinking of each other, always calling up each other.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
What I thought was so interesting, though, working on that film was that Shanika and I had just come from, I was living in Canada before living in the States, and Shanika came from London, and the parallels that her and I shared, like her and I went through a huge learning curve together, being immersed in this Black gay culture in America, and I feel like we learned a lot from you all. I feel like our souls expanded during our time on that.
We ripped their souls.
Yeah, we did. We really did.
Rebuilt it as Black Americans, damn it.
But I learned to celebrate the things about myself that weren't necessarily celebrated in the past, and finding power in my queerness, and finding power in my queer community, and finding a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Yeah, really. I mean, Jussie, I had never, you know this, I've told you this, but the day that I met you, you came in for the table read, right? Because I feel like you were the last person cast as Magnus, and you came into the table read at the VH1 offices in New York, and the only way that I can put this, sometimes when I'm in Vancouver, so I shoot Unreal in Vancouver, where there's not a huge Black population. I see, if I ever see little Black children, or mixed race children, sometimes they'll look at me with such wide eyes, like they've never seen a representation of themselves before. At 25 years old when I met you, I feel like I was that little boy where for the first time I saw a representation of myself so clearly. I had never been around somebody who was my age, who was mixed race, who resembled me so similarly in physicality, who shared many of my my life experiences. I'd never seen it before. It was like looking in a mirror, and it was the most bizarre and beautiful thing for me.
But it's just, we have to show, it just shows how important representation is, though, on television and film. I think that is where we would bring up someone like Patrick Ian Polk, who was our director and writer, who through the years, his work has just gradually gotten the grade of it has raised, but the heart of it is still the same. What he's been able to accomplish is really great, as far as kind of showing reflections of different parts of the community that people can kind of see. So big up to him for the skinny, and he brought us together and brought it to listen. And that was our family.
Forever. Oh, you know what? Yeah. I will forever be grateful for Patrick for that. And also, he actually did cast me on Noah's Ark years ago. I think it was my second acting job.
Mofo, you had blonde hair. Oh, Google that shit, y'all. Google that shit.
Embarrassing.
Google that shit when Jeffrey Bowyer Chapman was trying to do Lifetime Presents the Dennis Rodman story.
Oh my God. I think it started out as that with me with blonde hair, and just like slowly faded into this like weird orange mess, and that's what ended up being.
Because for a second it kind of looked like it was stripped.
Yeah.
You know when they make you strip?
What I was doing?
That
was before I was around people of color. I didn't know how to do my own hair.
Hey, first of all,
no one knew how to do my hair.
If you wanted your hair to be,
I don't know why I wanted it
to be blonde, then
it was a choice.
But it was a choice. You made it, and you stuck to it, and you did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you killed it.
I should have learned from it though, because so many times when I was working as a model, people would like dye and bleach my hair, and it just, as a person of color, if you don't have the right person doing it and knowing what they're doing with it, they really fuck with your hair. And I think I ended up like shaving my head immediately afterwards because my hair was so damaged.
I don't have nobody touching my damn hair.
Your hair is like, I comment on this whenever I see you. Like, we'll FaceTime every couple of months, and you're like, you can go from a shaved head to this like crazy like mop of curls overnight. It seems.
I know. Well, it's all weave. This shit is not my follicular structure.
I love it. I would never clock it. I would never ever.
But look, check this out.
You go, shut up. You were so scared to fix that wig.
Y'all, I can do this thing where I can pull my hair to make it look like.
That's terrifying. That's incredible. If y'all could see what he's doing right now.
I saw Debbie Allen do that one time, and I think she was doing an episode of either The Cosby Show or A Different World, and she had on this wig, and she did in the middle of the scene. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. She just pulled her wig. She was mad. She pulled her wig, and that shit was so funny. So I was like, I'm gonna learn to do that.
It is a way to make a statement.
It is.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I want to go back a minute to growing up in a biracial family and growing up as a biracial person. You had representations around you. You had reflections of yourself. You grew up with all of your siblings. How many siblings do you have? Are there 7 of you?
There's 6 of us in total.
Oh,
yeah,
Lord. And you guys.
We just grew up so fucking militant, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, we grew up so freaking militant, where it was like growing up with two. My mother had marched with the Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying? She knew Huey Newton. She knew Bobby Seale. We grew up with people like Angela Davis in our lives.
Yes.
So, especially in the later years when we moved to California and my mom reconnected with her. But anyway, those were the people that she was influenced by.
No, it's
so it felt like I had 2 Black Panthers as parents, because my father, although he was what society considered to be, he would get so mad when people called him white. He would literally get mad. He would go into work. And these days people might be like, oh, well, he's bringing that on. But no, he was very serious. Every job that he started, he would go in there and he would say, I have a Black wife. I have, one minute he'd say, I have 3 Black children. Then it was 4 Black children, 5 Black children, 6 Black children. 6 Black children. And so any racist jokes or feelings or statements that you have, I'm letting you know right now, do not do this. And I remember my father, like, they would talk about it every single time that they would go on job. So what did they say this time? And it was, he laid it out from the beginning to know I don't stand for that.
Jesus,
and
that's so interesting to have that influence around you during your formative years, because you are, I mean, someone who is super woke, like woke as fuck, like more so than most people that I've encountered on this planet, and which I think is so beautifully demonstrated in your song and music video for Fucked Up World.
Thank you.
It's like, I mean, I had the question, like, when did that begin for you, and where do you think that level of awareness and consciousness came from? But you just
It came from my mother. It came from my mother. My father did it. You know what I'm saying? My mother did it, and she taught it. You know what I'm saying? And she was, I always say, we were given choices about everything in our lives. We were given, you know, we were allowed to decide who we were. You know, the only things that we were not given choices in was loving each other and being socially aware and active. So
blessed.
It was that's just honest to God. That's just the way that we were raised. And our upbringing was not perfect. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I know as a fact, if I were to die today, I know as a fact, I can die a person that was filled with love and loyalty. Oh, I'm good.
I feel that way
I'm
too.
good.
Isn't that beautiful?
Like that is, and I say that with all of the humility. My older sister told me before Empire, before any of this, she was like, she said, pray for humility every single day.
Yes.
And I swear to you, I pray for humility every single day. I look at my tattoo and it means more to me than anyone understands.
Me too.
I pray for humility every single day. But I know that I'm full of love and I'm full of loyalty. Those are the two things, like, that we're not going to debate about.
I can attest to that.
We're not going to debate about that shit, son.
Absolutely.
We going to debate all of this shit. You think my face is ugly? Cool. That's debatable, my nigga.
It is.
That's debatable.
Who would say that? Has anyone ever told you your face is ugly? What a strange example.
You think that my delicious scent that I always smell like, you think maybe it's not your forte? All of this is debatable. Do you think that I'm a great singer? Do you think that my shit sucks? Do you think that I'm whack, that I sound like a lamb? This is all debatable, my nigga. This is all debatable. What is not debatable, though, is my love and loyalty. That shit is not debatable. So anything else, it doesn't... I'm to the point now, I think. Now that I'm reaching my mid-30s.
Yes.
And we're approaching my birthday.
I know it's your birthday next week.
You know what I'm saying?
Or in 9 days?
On the 21st, the first day of summer.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like having to understand, and you really have to look internally and figure out what are the things that you know for sure about yourself.
Oh, baby boy.
And be like, what do I know for sure that's just dope about me?
Okay, so that's interesting. So the first thing that I say to myself when I wake up in the morning is thank you, and then I sit in meditation. I think mindful meditation is an incredibly important practice that has shifted and shaped me in many, many ways, but it gives me a chance to go outside of myself and to see my shortcomings and to give myself an opportunity to work on those things, and also really acknowledge the things that I love and celebrate about myself. What do you love and celebrate most about yourself?
My ability to love.
Oh, yeah.
It goes back to that. I know that people are going to be like, this
no, it's good.
love.
No, because it all comes back to love.
This motherfucker ain't got no vocabulary.
It all comes back to love.
He know one word. It does,
It really does.
It does. I cannot say this enough. Love is the root of everything. Everything good and everything bad in the world is rooted in love or lack of it.
Yes.
It's all. Love is greed is rooted in the wrong kind of love. You know what I'm saying? It's love of selfishness. You know what I'm saying? But love is the root of everything. Wars, it's lack of respect, lack of feeling respected, lack of feeling understood. Sometimes it's love of money, oil, you know what I'm saying? Love is the root of everything. There is nothing in this world.
Yeah, I agree.
More important.
It took me a long time to relearn that. I think we're all born with that. I think that it's all, it truly is in our DNA, and we come into this world as these loving, bright beings, and it's in many ways I guess I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, it was beaten out of me in many ways. That the things that I now love and celebrate about myself, I was told were things that I should be shameful of, things that I should be ashamed of. And it made me play small in many ways. And when I dulled that love within me, and when I dimmed that light, it didn't leave me in a place of neutrality or indifference. It left me in a place of darkness and sadness and hate. So until I learned to really accept and love the things about myself that make me me, it wasn't until that moment that I became overflowing with love and could give it and receive it and embody it in any way, shape, and form that I could, because that's the only way that I can get through this life in a way that feels good.
Because what did Rue say?
If you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? Am I getting amen up in here? Amen, Rue. I love that. What is your spiritual practice, if any?
Oh God, now I'm gonna have to say love again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't. I've gone to, religious wise, I've gone to church. Yeah. I've gone to temple.
With your father, you would go to temple. With your mother's side of the family, you'd go to church. Is that like a black church?
They didn't really have sides of the family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, interesting.
My mother's mother passed away in April of 1977, and her first grandchild, my older brother, was born in August 1977.
Okay.
So, and then my father's family were, how do I say this?
Just say it. We're not politically correct here.
A little fucking racist.
Jesus.
Okay. I remember it very, very boldly and blatantly, and, but so that's why my parents, it was like them kind of against the world,
Wow.
And it was, but we had our village. We had a nation when we were growing up, and we didn't celebrate one thing more than the other, but it was all celebrated as a cultural thing. It just wasn't celebrated in a religious thing. Mm-hmm. We were never told that we were Christian. We were never told we believe in God, of course, but we were never told. I remember my mom had 4 different readings, and it was 4 different religions, and she would read from each book.
Oh, cool. This is all the same.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it comes, the root of it, the core of it is all the same.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you strip it all away, just dressed up
the
in
practice
different.
is based on love, at least.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised with a religion as well, but I think it's a very different culture in Canada than it is in the States. I think church culture just isn't as prevalent in Canada as it is in the States, but it took a long time for me to come to a place of finding a spiritual practice, and I didn't realize how necessary and important it was for me personally until I discovered it. It was actually on the set of The Skinny, believe it or not. Have I ever told you the story? So I practice Nichiren Buddhism.
Yeah.
It is a practice that fills me with, it brings me to a place that I truly feel as my authentic self. It's all based on the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and Nichiren Buddhists believe that chant is when you chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, you reach the same vibrational frequency of all that is in the universe. It's the same vibrational frequency of the universe. So when you chant that, all you're doing is matching yourself up to the vibrational flow of the universe, and you go with the flow of it. So it was a couple of weeks into shooting The Skinny. We were shooting in Brooklyn, and I walked by a door in that apartment we were shooting in your character's apartment, and I heard this strange humming, this vibration noise, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was so drawn to it, and I went and put my ear up against the door, and I could hear that it was coming from humans. I could feel that. I could feel that it was just, there was something so human about it. So I opened the door, and it was Blake Young Fountain and Lisa Green, who were chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and I was so drawn to it. And I went.
Was that your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time. My first introduction to Nichiren Buddhism. I'd never heard the words. I can't say I'd never heard the words, because I remember back in the day when I was a kid watching What's Love Got to Do With It.
Don't fucking act. Don't y'all act. Let me tell you something. Shout out to Tina Turner, and shout out to Angela Bassett, and Miss Vanessa Bell Calloway, for in that movie introduced Buddhism.
Yeah, Nichiren Buddhism specifically.
Got it.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Nichiren
Buddhism.
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
In a way, to a generation and beyond that could feel connected to it somehow because they're like, whoa, they got Tina Turner out of Ike.
See, right?
You know what I'm saying? That's real shit, though.
I think that in many ways people can abuse.
And I'm not saying, listen, just so we're clear,
Yeah.
out of respect to everyone that practiced it. I'm not saying that it's the movie like made it popular. You know what I'm saying? Don't be fucking tweeting me.
But of this generation though, it certainly was my first. It was the first time.
It made it real. It made it to a lot of people. It introduced them to it in a way that otherwise maybe we would not have been introduced to it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I think
it was great.
I think that some people can take the practice and kind of abuse it in the way that people have used the The Secret and the Law of Attraction with the intention of trying to draw strictly material things to them, like trying to get that car, trying to get that house, trying to get that money, trying to get that man, all of those things. That's like, never...
I can't get nobody.
I can't get nobody.
I need to chant. And then that nigga gonna ride.
Even though I think you can chant for love, but I think that the first thing you have to chant for is to be
love within yourself, shouldn't you? I don't even know it like that, but I would think.
That's how I choose to look at it.
Blake is literally, side note.
Oh my God, the most enlightened human being.
Like, God.
He's incredible.
Y'all, Blake is one of the greatest just human beings on the planet.
Blake Young Fountain. We're talking about who played Sebastian.
Oh my goodness. Incredible. Just one of the best human beings.
Yeah, he truly is.
You know
and Lisa Green, who was she was our art director on The Skinny. She's somebody who's become one of my dearest, closest friends in the entire world.
You're like, those are like your kids.
Her two children,
yes.
Ethan and Riley, are my Buddha babies, and they are my babies.
Yeah.
I feel like I have no need to have children biologically at any point because those two little boys are my life. Yeah, I mean, y'all can check them out on my Instagram. I'm constantly posting photos of two of them because they're so beautiful. Do I think I'll have kids? It's something that I'm adopted, and it's something that I always thought that I would do at a certain point. I've always wanted to adopt a little black boy. As time goes on,
imagine if you were a white person and you said, imagine if you.
I can't tell you how many
y'all better fucking know that this is Jeffrey Bowyer Chapman and he's black. Because they could be flipping this shit on real quick.
Don't come from me.
And you're like, maybe they haven't seen The Skinny, maybe they haven't seen Unreal. Like, y'all, he's black. So don't think I don't want to adopt a little black boy.
How many times do I hear that though? I've heard that so many times from so many white people, and it's like in one way, it's like that's really beautiful. Thank you for saying that. On the other side of things, it's like just be conscious of your audience. Really.
Oh God, I was about to say something. I don't want to say it. I'm gonna shut up. Let's move on.
Just shut up. Move on.
I got too many feelings about this.
Do I think I'll adopt a little boy? Maybe, possibly. I always thought that it was very important to me to help shape. I think that we need more strong, beautiful, compassionate, loving, artistic, kind heterosexual men in this world, and if I can have a hand in bringing up a young heterosexual male to embody all of those things, then my job is done. I think that I can. I am doing that with my little Buddha babies, with Ethan and Riley, and they are such a phenomenal mother and a beautiful example to go by. But that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me for now. We were talking about representation a little bit, and I was asking about your family, and you grew up with all of your siblings and you had reflections of yourself around you. Do you remember the first time that you saw a reflection of yourself, a representation of yourself in mainstream media?
If I'm being honest, the representation that I had was The Cosby Show.
Oh, beautiful.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the reason why I hesitate, if I'm being completely honest and being transparent, is because I know that everything that's happening right now, you know what I'm saying? I want to, but aside from that,
I compartmentalize.
Okay,
the Cosby Show was the Cosby Show.
Okay,
and that
good,
was like epic.
Good, and I hope that because
my mind didn't even go there.
That was without a doubt the representation that we had.
And it was in your world.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love her so much. Yeah. That was a black family who loved art, who loved jazz, who had much more than we had growing up, but they didn't have, it wasn't anything that you couldn't aspire. It wasn't anything that felt like it was out of this world.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It felt reachable to...
Aspirational, wild.
Yes,
attainable.
exactly.
Yeah.
It felt like I could become a fucking doctor,
Yeah,
and end up with some bomb ass lawyer wife.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Brownstone in Brooklyn.
In a fucking bomb ass brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. It doesn't belong just to the Patty Duke family on the Patty Duke show back in the day, because you know we had Nick at Night at a certain point.
Yes. What did you just call me?
Patty Duke.
Nick at Night.
Nick at Night.
Anyway, continue. Yes, I remember Nick at Night.
But that was our first representation, and then came A Different World.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
World.
And that right there, it felt like, oh my God, I can't wait. I remember seeing A Different World and being like,
How
I
old were you?
cannot,
like
probably like 7.
Oh shit!
You know what I'm saying?
Lucky
But seeing
you.
A Different World and being like, damn, I cannot wait to be a young black dude. Like, that's the thing, is like we were raised in that way. You know, when we moved to LA, I remember we used to take weekend trips to this place named Essawan Books. And my mother is forever, is so aware and is so proud to be a black woman, that we were blessed because we had someone on our team that was leading us that went out of their way to show us ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that is something that not everybody has. So the people that do have that, it's kind of our responsibility to make sure that we pass that on to not just our children, but to the masses, if we so have that platform.
Completely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I remember the first time, sexuality-wise, Wilson Cruz on My So-Called Life.
Oh my God!
I
worked with Wilson on Noah's Ark back in the day. My second acting job.
Well, we worked with him on
The Skinny. He was on The Skinny. Yeah, that was my second. That was
and
my
his brother
reunion with him. Yes, Josh Cruz.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah.
I tell Wilson this all the time. He probably is like, oh, here comes this fucking loser telling me this fucking story again. Okay, motherfucker, I inspired you. Cool.
I want to hear this.
This is the thing. I remember I was on a little show named On Our Own.
Yes.
With my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
And that was on ABC the same time that there was a show called My So-Called Life on with Claire Danes and Wilson Cruz.
Were you guys part of TGIF?
Yes.
Yes. Jesus.
Um,
Legacy.
Well, first we were on Sundays at 7:30.
Right.
Fucked up time
All
slot.
right. Yeah.
All bullshit
Yeah.
channel ABC put us
Yeah,
on.
thanks for shoving the color folk into the corner.
Love you, ABC. Fuck y'all, but I love Blackish. I fucking love Blackish, but fuck y'all. No, but we were up against 60 Minutes.
Oh, wow.
What the fuck?
Come on.
Y'all.
Oh, no. That's just cruel.
Set us up for failure.
Yeah.
But then I think Hanging with Mr. Cooper went on a break, and then they put us like the last 10 episodes because we were struggling at 7:30.
Yeah.
But we had built like a little core cult fan base,
Yeah.
and then they moved us to Fridays at 9:30 in place of Hanging with Mr. Cooper while that was on a break. And we won our time slot every year, and then they changed like regimes, and all of us got the boot. We were on the same season as My So-Called Life, All American Girl with Margaret Cho,
Oh, wow.
Me and the Boys with Steve Harvey and Chaz Shepard, and Madge Sinclair. That was her last project, and then they canceled us all at the same time because I don't know.
Interesting.
But during that, we used to be in all these teen magazines, and Wilson Cruz would be in it also.
Yeah, like
and
Tiger
he would
Beat
be,
magazine.
and Right On,
Yes.
Right On. That's right, that's right. Whoop whoop. But I used to read articles about Wilson, and I was 12 years old. I was so inspired by him that he was so brave. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't even about the sexuality thing. It was about the way that I remember hearing the story, and I can say this because like it's in like paper, like he's said it in interviews. This isn't me like telling his business. About his father turning him away on, I think it was New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, when he told him that he was gay, and kicking him out. And I remember reading that and then feeling so sad, but then not wanting anybody to see me reading about Wilson because I didn't want anybody to think that I was gay.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Wilson has inspired me. That's why like I will always get like whatever Wilson needs, I'm always like, Wilson wants me to give a fucking award. I'm like, how the fuck we gonna make this happen?
Yeah.
Because Wilson is And he has not stopped. And he doesn't stop just because, first of all, he's always gigged up.
Yeah.
He got one of them call
Stay
sheets.
working.
He got one of them call sheets. However, he doesn't do the work that he does for publicity. He doesn't do it when he doesn't do like a little extra because he's got a movie coming out, or a little extra work in the community because he's, trying to sell this or sell that, or he's got a new TV show. He does it all the time. It almost sometimes feels like his acting to him has become his night job, and his day job is pushing the community forward. And it's not just one community. It's not, he's not only dealing with issues that directly affect the LGBTQ community. You know what I'm saying? He's not only dealing with issues that directly affect the Latino community. He's not only dealing with issues that directly affect the Black community. He's dealing with these issues separately and together because they matter. And I know that the show was great and it was groundbreaking and much respect, but for me, it wasn't about the show. It was because back then I definitely wasn't watching the show. It was about Wilson being himself, being employed as an actor, not having to be backstage and be, here's the thing. I grew up with a very clear idea from what I saw and from what people would say, that if you want to be in show business and you want to be in front of the camera, you can't be gay. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to be gay, it's fine. But because I grew up in the industry, it was like, if you wanted to be gay, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, not the industry was not, was not being like, they weren't marching around talking about, God kills fags. Like, they were not doing that. That's the industry. Exactly. Shut that shit down if they said that. However, there was a very clear thing that if you were openly who you are, you had to either be behind the scenes, which is amazing, you know what I'm saying, or do like theater, do Broadway, which is also amazing. Two things that I very, very much so want to and will do. But I don't want people saying that is what I have to do because of who I am.
Oh, it was like,
you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's like, you don't want somebody telling you that, well, you can't do one element of what you want to do in your life, but you can do these that you want to do, but you can't do that because who are you to say that shit is my disability? It's not my disability.
Absolutely. So was it important to you to play gay characters? I mean, Jamal and Magnus, were they the first gay characters that you played?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Magnus was the first gay character you played? Wow.
Totally.
Interesting.
Totally.
Oh, wow.
But you have to also realize that I had gotten out of the business at like 13. And then Magnus was the first thing the Skinny was the first thing that I had acted in like, I don't know, like 13 years or something like that. 13, 14, 15 years. And that's how I originally had met Pip was I was originally cast in Blackbird.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God, that's right.
And then it didn't end up.
I just saw that on Netflix yesterday. I'm gonna scroll past it.
Yeah. So I was much respect to Julian Walker.
Yeah.
We were going to do that, and so that was going to be my first thing back. And
oh my God, I remember.
And then that ended up not getting done. And when the Skinny came on, this came about. I was trying to fucking work.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I needed and the character was good.
Oh my God! What you did with that character was just extraordinary.
Thank you.
Just extraordinary.
Joey will forever live in the Legends Hall of Fame. Oh my God! Wait, what's the line that I love that you say? We say, I'm never gonna pull at this glove.
That is one of the only. That is probably. I love you so much for loving that line, because that is probably the only time. That was the first time as an actor that I demanded another take. It was at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just didn't get it right the first take. And he's like, "Okay, moving on." I begged for another take, and
but it was
that's
perfection.
That's what it ended up.
That shit was so funny to me.
That's amazing.
So funny. So yeah, and then Magnus came, and you know what's funny? Lee Daniels at the premiere of The Skinny.
Yes,
remember
he introduced the film. I
the
remember.
film.
Yeah.
And I remember he said something about Patrick to the effect of, he's very bold in telling stories, and he said, I'm not there in telling stories about gay characters. And he said, and Lee specifically said, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. My mother reached over to me and she said, he's going to work with you. Yes. And I said, oh my God, Mommy, please do not say that. That's so embarrassing. Please do not let anyone hear you saying that.
And look at it. She put it out there.
3 years later, motherfucker, I got Empire.
Do you remember?
Amazing. Amazing. It all comes together, y'all.
I remember they sent me the script for Empire to read for Andre, the older brother.
And you called me.
I called you immediately.
You called me.
Do you remember? And said, motherfucker, this role was written for you, for Jamal.
Of Jamal.
And I think you were already on it. You were already
I was like, I already fucking called these people.
You were already.
Yeah, I think I was. I had my audition. I had already DM'd Lee. Yeah. And all that.
You were very proactive. In
and
you know
what?
Role.
I think that it is okay to be so connected to something.
Yeah.
And to know in your heart that it is yours, without any sort of, again, with all humility, but to know that it is yours and that you can bring something really special to it and that it can bring something really special to you. And for that, I just knew, man, I knew that was mine. And that everything else up to that point that I had gone on, that I wanted, that it came so close, that I got network test, finally got thank you BET good looking out on getting me a quote as an adult.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff.
But
all of that stuff pushed you forward, even the roles that you didn't get, because it wasn't yours.
If the train don't stop at your station, it ain't your train.
Exactly.
That's a lesson to learn, but I take it.
It's okay.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to filmmakers like Patrick and Lee Daniels, and it's paved a way for projects like Moonlight, where we can bring these stories to the mainstream.
And Dee Reese and people like that. You know what I'm saying?
To humanize these stories. I think it's just incredibly important. I have two more questions for you real quick.
You keep on going.
What do you think? I'm going to get deep. We're going to go deep for a second, because I'm really curious to know. This isn't going to come out of nowhere, because this is, I think that it goes back to our theme of this episode of love. What do you believe happens after we pass on?
I don't know on a religious element how anybody feels about it, but I know that there's something after this. If I never knew it before, I knew it after my father passed. I never, ever... I've always been I love, understanding energy and, feeling energy from other people. But I never understood shit about it until my father passed. And because I understood the idea of seeing someone through other people. And it's I know that he is still around.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then I know in those instances where I don't feel him as much, it's interesting because maybe one of my siblings are feeling him more. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost he's with the one that needs him the most. You know what I'm saying? I really feel that. I feel it. And it's interesting because I almost feel it more now that he's gone than when he was here with us.
I couldn't agree more. With friends and family members.
So for that, it's there's no way that's it.
I love that.
That's it. And listen, if I'm crazy and I'm making all this shit up in my head and it's like that, guess what? When I die, I ain't gonna know.
Yeah,
so whatever, it gets me through this shit.
Absolutely.
So right now, as of now, I'm just I feel my father. You know what I'm saying?
That.
I know that he's here with me. I know that since he passed, he has literally done so much work. And I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about anything. He's done so much. And I'm that's where his work was supposed to continue.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's how he was, because my mother's still here, holding shit down. Always has been, always will be, when he wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? She never stopped that. But maybe he's more needed up there.
Yeah.
And guess what? Again, if when I die, there's nothing, I'm not going to know.
Yeah.
So
So
for
fuck
that,
it.
this is getting me through.
It makes you feel
This
better.
is getting me through.
What do you want to be remembered for? Or who do you want to be remembered as?
I want to be remembered as someone that literally like bled love, like just sweated love, just licked love. That truly just you felt like you mattered to me, and that you felt like you understood how much. It's so interesting because I was getting off the phone with someone and I said, I love you. And someone was with me at the time and they said, you love everybody. And I said, no, but I genuinely do. Like, I literally have love for everybody. Maybe not everybody.
No, I know you do, baby. You live it. You embody it.
Love is just, it makes me happy. It makes me sad. It makes me angry. It makes me excited. It makes me horny. It makes me... It makes me passionate.
Yeah.
It makes me work hard. It makes me inspired. It's all of those things, just this big ass tree of love. If I could be remembered for spreading love and doing my damnness to stay out of drama or battles, unnecessary battles, pettiness, negativity. If I could stay out of that and just be remembered for love, I'll be fine.
You're doing just fine, my love. You are well on your way. All right, everyone, we are out of time. Thank you so much for tuning into my frequency. Remember to subscribe on iTunes, and thank you so much to my guest, Jussie Smollett.
I love you, Jeffrey Boy Chapman.
I love you so much, my soul
So
brother.
much.
Forever, my soul
Absolutely.
brother. So
Forever.
grateful to you for
wait, so are we going to talk about this ring on your finger? Or
Oh my
we're
God, you were
just,
so funny.
We're just going to ignore that?
June 12th is also my anniversary with my partner Andrew, who is Irish. He's from Dublin, and I'm wearing a ring on my finger on my the wedding band finger.
Yeah, you are.
It's a claddagh ring. It's called a claddagh ring. So it's actually an Irish wedding ring. It has a heart in the center, two hands, and a crown over the heart. It is not a wedding ring.
But you just said, my boyfriend, he's Irish, and this is an Irish wedding ring.
True. You know
so
funny?
what the fuck does that mean exactly?
It means that I manifested his ass into my life because my mother bought me this ring like 10 years
so that's
ago.
not from him.
No, it's from my mother.
Oh, wow.
And this is the only finger that it fits on, but it just so happens that I have that love in my
This
life.
motherfucker's fingers are long and skinny.
You love
He
it?
can literally fit that shit on any finger.
No, I couldn't.
It can go on your middle finger. It can go on your pinky finger.
It just feels right on this one.
on my left finger,
feels
fourth hand.
right. I love
Fourth finger, left hand. That's your Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Fourth finger, left hand. Yes, Brandy, come through.
Oh, we just got Jussie Smollett singing.
No.
My life is complete.
No.
My life is complete.
No, not at all.
All right, children. If I can leave you all with one thing, it is this: celebrate yourself and love each other. I'm JBC, and I love you.